The OECD, just remember who runs the OECD.
Just remind us.
Matthias Cormann. He was the finance minister with Joe Hockey when they did the big austerity budget and were sitting outside smoking their cigars and feeling very flush with themselves.
What an image, yep.
This is not a left-wing organisation.
Today we're talking about one of Australia's pet peeves, or really one of our, generational massive problems, the housing market. We've talked a lot about it, obviously a lot. It's very cooked, I think is the word. But how does Australia actually compare to the rest of the world when it comes to the housing market? Are we just, complaining a lot, or, are things getting expensive everywhere?
We have a right to whinge.
That is true, actually. But
or more specifically, you have a right to whinge because, of course, you are in the cursed generation that failed to be born at the right time. And so
doesn't yet own my
due
own
to
home.
your negligence of forethought in getting born in the early 70s, you missed out on being able to get into the housing market at the right time. No.
That's my mistake. Yeah.
Just in the past week or so, the OECD did its sort of annual, let's have a look at Australia survey.
Yep.
And
see what's happening.
Yeah, and it particularly had a look at housing and says, Australia, you be cooked.
Well, it's nice to get a second opinion.
Yeah, I mean, comparing us to the rest of the OECD, which is all the advanced economies, our housing prices relative to our incomes have risen much more than others. There are a couple others who have kind of sort of kept up with us a bit. The UK is a bit high. Canada is sort of around our mark. But America, well below us. Most of the European nations, well below us in terms of increases in prices. Really, and Australia really, unlike everyone else, really took off in the early 2000s, as we've pointed out many, many times before, just after John Howard decided to change how capital gains tax was dealt with.
Bloody Howard.
Bloody Howard. New year, but no change in our blaming Howard for everything wrong in Australia. Really, the OECD just looked at this and said, you got to fix things because if you keep doing what you're doing, it's only going to get worse.
In terms of, to keep on doing what we're doing, what is it that we're doing that other countries aren't?
Yeah, a couple things. We don't have much social housing.
Yep.
Compared, and we're talking specifically here sort of for available for rent, compared to a lot of other nations or compared to the OECD, we're well below average. So we should be having much more public housing, social housing. As I've pointed out in the past, we used to build a lot more public housing back in the 60s, 50s, very much so, the 60s, even into the 70s, which is why when Anthony Albanese talks about, he grew up in public housing, well, there was a lot more public housing around then.
Do you have any numbers to compare?
Back in the 50s and 60s, for every 100,000 Australians, we used to build about 150 public sector residential buildings, whether it be homes, whether it be houses or apartments or things like that. So about 140 to 150 per 100,000, which doesn't sound like a lot, but not everyone of those 100,000 is looking for a home at that particular time. And this is new buildings. Yeah. So that was around 140, 150. Pretty much for the last 25 years, it has been under 20.
Yeah, okay. So a significant drop.
A significant drop, and a significant drop that has kept going for 25 years. So you think about, like let's say if you're aiming for 140 per 100,000 and in 1 year you do 20, well, okay, we've got a gap to fill up. We've got to do some more. But then we did it for 2 years and 3 years and then 4 years. So now we've got basically a quarter of a century's worth of deficit. Yeah, we've got to somehow build that back up again. So the OECD point out, build some bloody public sector housing. But the big thing that they also talked about was tax. It's the tax concessions for investors, housing investors. So the capital gains tax, 50% discount. Yep. So you buy a house for $400,000, sell it for $800,000. You think, I've made $400,000 in profit. that's income. I'm going to have to pay tax on that. No, you only pay tax on $200,000. We'll give you the other $200,000 tax-free. A $200,000 tax-free threshold.
Do other countries not do this?
No, they don't. We seem to like doing it more than others. And also negative gearing as well is a thing that we do that others don't. Others do have similar types of things, but you can only, like if you make a loss in your rental, you can count that against your income from your rental. But in Australia, we're like, no, you can take that away from your teacher's salary or your doctor's salary or whatever other income. So they said, look, they're the two things you really got to fix: capital gains tax, negative gearing, and that public sector housing. And it's really interesting because, of course, we have been banging on about this for a very long time. The OECD, just remember who runs the OECD.
Just remind us.
Matthias Cormann. He was the finance minister with Joe Hockey when they did the big austerity budget and were sitting outside smoking their cigars and feeling very flush with themselves.
What an image, yep.
This is not a left-wing organisation. The OECD is pretty conservative. It always wants governments to cut back on spending and everything. But actually, when it was looking at Australia, it was sort of saying rein in spending a little bit, but it was really saying fix your tax base. You've got too many exemptions. You've got too many discounts. And in terms of capital gains tax, discounts that are skewing the housing market so that Elinor can't buy a home.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said, yes.
Yeah, and it's not just the OECD. There's currently a government inquiry into capital gains tax and the impact it's having. The New South Wales Treasury Department put in a submission saying as well, capital gains tax discount, we got to fix it. It's wrong.
Yeah.
People often talk about things like the Overton window, where you kind of shifting what is viewed as permissible or normal or accepted.
In terms of ideology.
Yeah, in terms of things. And so there's often talk about, the way in which the right wing and the far right talk about demonising of, say, migrants, or they talk about how they demonise unemployed people, how, back 30 years ago, yes, unemployed were not praised and everything, but there's been 30 years of calling them dole bludgers, and so it shifts everyone from thinking, unemployed people who should, be able to at least live out of poverty to actually no, they shouldn't get paid much at all or get anything. And so it's this trying to shift how people think about things. But one of the interesting things on things like tax, on things to do with housing, yes, we have been pushing it, trying to say, hey, the capital gains tax discount is terrible. It is doing things bad. And when we were first doing it, there was this sort of sense of, God, these left-wing socialists, blah, blah.
Yep.
But the reality is now you've got organisations like the OECD, like the New South Wales Treasury Department. You're seeing some more centrist sort of think tanks around saying, look, the capital gains tax discount is just bad. It is, we're talking $21 billion in tax foregone, 80% of that, so around sort of $18 billion or so going to the richest 10%.
It's destroying the
housing market.
Yep.
People are kind of have moved there. Something that 15 years ago would have been like, don't touch that. It's to a point now where I think if the government was to look at it, I think there is much more of a view that people go, yeah, actually, that's sensible.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to keep up to date with all our latest research and work, sign up to our newsletter. Delivered every fortnight, it includes behind-the-scenes updates from Richard Dennis, an exclusive cartoon from Judy Horacek, details for our upcoming events and webinars, as well as explainers, graphs, and not to mention the latest cutting-edge research and analysis from the team here on the key issues that are facing Australia. Click the button on your screen to check it out.